This is going to be a video on the cQ-Baseline indicator version 2. I've did the video already and it ended up being really long, a lot longer than I thought it would be. So I'm just going to do a real brief intro, so just for people that don't want to watch the whole thing. Basically, this is the baseline indicator, similar to the previous one. Obviously, it has a few more options. One of them is you can stick the buttons in this sub-window down here. And the other one is you can change the baseline just by clicking, just going through it. There's quite a number, I don't know, probably over 40 or so moving averages. And it also has, I've added these presets down here, because eventually I will make one of these that doesn't have all these, a huge dialog box with all these settings in it. It will be optimized better, and you'll be able to save them, save the presets that you create, and then you can load them in the player version or whatever it's going to be called. The rest of these buttons are, you could just put the indicator on your chart and start hitting the buttons. You can figure out what they do, or you can watch the video, and that's basically it. So have fun. The baseline is used to help you determine when to enter a trade. When price crosses through this moving average, that means it's a possibility for a buy. When it crosses down through it, it's a possibility for a sell. If you get a red dot like this one here, that means that price has gone beyond the baseline more than 1 times the current ATR. So like from this baseline down to here, it has gone beyond 1 times the ATR. To find out more about the baseline and how you could integrate it into a full system, look up No Nonsense Forex. The link will actually be down below. I guess first I'll describe the interface. This top line shows the type of moving average that's being used. This is a linear weighted moving average, 20, and a close. The next line is the status line. It shows the minimum ATR that's required to make a trade, which we'll just select this candle here. And it's saying that the minimum is 13.16 pips. That's the minimum it has to be. And then that the current ATR, and that's 18.8, so it's above the minimum. The next text here, the DS, is the distance above, in this case, the baseline, and it's 0.65. The last one, the DR, is the distance ratio, which is the distance divided by the current ATR. And this one, it's right on the baseline, so it's 0.003. If the distance ratio is 1 or greater, that means that you're not supposed to trade based on the system. But you can change these values in the dialog box, of which I'll tell you more about that. The next line displays the high-low mode status, if it's on or off, the percent filter, if there is any being used, the shift, if it's being shifted in any way, and then how these dots are being displayed. Currently, it will print a dot when it crosses the baseline. It says baseline. The next set of buttons are these buttons right here, and what it does, it allows you to change the moving average. So here you can see there's a number of moving averages. You can go up or down. The next button is the period button. You can, again, go up, go back down. The next set of buttons is to change the applied price, up or down there. And then these buttons, these set of buttons here are the parameters here, and this is for changing the various parameters. Not all moving averages have any parameters to change, so if there is one, then you'll be able to change it here. The next button here, it enables a thing that I call high-low mode, which you can see what it did here to the chart. It takes the moving average and basically puts the high and the low on there. This changes the period of the ATR for this high-low mode, and this changes the width. See, it's getting a little wider there. And I'll explain that more later. This next set of buttons is the percent filter. So you can see what the percent filter does. This next set of buttons is the shift buttons. It will just shift it forward and back. This next button, pair of buttons are used to modify the parameters of the current moving average. And that's what these two buttons will be, and they'll turn green if they're available in the current moving average. This next button is how you view the dots. Like right now it's off. You're viewing dots when it crosses the baseline, or you're viewing when the moving average slope changes. This next button is the smooth price button, and I'll explain that more later. The next thing I'd like to show is the hold button, which is this button right here. And what this allows you to do is hold the chart in a particular position, and then you can zoom in or out and it will stay there. Right now, this computer isn't connected to the internet. If a tick comes through, it will reposition it when that tick happens. But right now there aren't any coming through. So I can move the chart, and if I go hit refresh, it's going to reposition it there. Or zoom in and refresh it, it'll move it back to this position. If I change time frames, it will keep it in this position. And you can also change currencies, and it will remember the same position. So anyway, that's the hold button. I do have a single indicator that's just the hold button. It'll just be this little square, and you can position wherever it is on the chart, and that's all it does. You press the button and it'll hold it there. And then down below, these are the preset buttons. Again, I'll explain these later. The next thing I'd like to show you is the dialog box. Here we have the refresh rate, which just updates it. This is set to 20 seconds. You can go all the way down to 1 second. The next button is the preset group, what you're going to save to. Right now it's at local. And when it's at local, that means you have 10 presets for just this chart. And what you can do like right now, we could save these current settings into preset 1, and then we can change it to something else, and then we can save that to preset 2, and we can flip-flop between them just by pressing them. Okay. When this is at local, like I said, you can have 10 presets for the chart. If you set it to global, you have 10 presets for all the charts in this current instance of MT4. That allows you to save, and load presets. Like you can create a preset in one chart and use it in another chart, for example. But you only have 10 global, and then you have 10 local presets for each chart. This next button tells you which preset or dialog box to load when the indicator is initialized or when you close the dialog box. For example, right now I'll have it load preset 1, which you can see right now we're on preset 2, and it's going to load. Now the default will be preset 1. You can switch between these just by pressing the button. If you want to create another one, you can just change these settings. ARM the preset button. It'll turn red, and then you can stick it in to any of these other presets that you want to use. It will be it'll be brighter. That means that that preset's used. You can override it very easily, just override it. Anyway, it just lets you know that there's one already there. So the next setting is the type of baseline you want to use. And you can select one from here, from this list, or you can just use the buttons and cycle through them. The next setting is the period setting. Just so you know that some of these moving averages have their period, you have to change it down here. Like the ADX VMA period. If you're changing it from the dialog box, you have to come down here to change it, for example. I'll show you the VDX, see how it says 6, and you can change it at this, using this. There's a couple other ones, which I think is, this one, the Mama one, where these period buttons don't work. You have to use the parameters. It's just, see, these values are very different, and there's 2 of them. So I stuck them over here. So just so you know that there are some that this period over here doesn't work. And if it doesn't, it's probably one of these parameters or what's going to change it. Then you have your basic applied price selection. You can type in a shift number. You can type a positive value and it moves it to the right. This is where you can enable or disable the smooth price, which I should, I guess, explain what that is. What it does, it just puts a 2-period linear weighted moving average. That's what it uses instead of price. So when the 2-period moving average crosses this baseline up, it will print a dot. Down, it'll print a dot. So it's a little bit different. Okay, the next setting is the high-low mode. The next bunch of settings are the moving average parameter settings for each moving average. For example, this is where the ADX VMA period is set. They're all listed here, all the way down. I put all the trends towards the bottom of the list. You can change them here, but you can also change them by using the parameter buttons on this interface. The next setting is the ATR parameters. The period 14, that's a standard, but you can change it. You can make it higher, lower, whatever you want to use it as. Here is the ATR multiplier, and basically don't trade if it's greater than 1 times the ATR or 1.5 or 1.25 or whatever you want to put in there, or make it even smaller. That's just will show you this red dot in place of an orange or a blue dot. The next one is the minimum notify if the ATR is less than the minimum amount. There's 2 modes. There's an auto mode and then a user select mode. The user select mode uses this. Right now, this is set for 60 pips. So on the daily chart, if you did set this to 60, if it's below 60, it's going to change the color of this status line to, currently it's set to show dots less than the minimum, it's going to show it in the magenta color. Okay, and if this ATR is greater than this multiplier here, this 1 times the ATR, it's going to print a red dot. You can change again. You can change that if you want, right there. And then if you select this auto mode, what it does is it takes this ATR value, calculates the ATR, and then smooths it out by 200 or whatever value you want to put in there, and then multiplies it by 0.8. That's the minimum ATR. The next setting are the screen parameter settings. And right now it's shown to view under current mouse position, which is this info right here. See, as I move the mouse, it is showing the various settings are changing for each candle. And if you go down here, if you change this to view candle on rightmost side, it's going to stay, like you can move the mouse around and it'll stay. It's basically showing you what the value is for this candle over here, which is really useful if you're using the F12 button to change things. See, as I cycle through them, it's displaying whatever that candle is right here. Next is, you can hide the buttons if you want, which is not really that useful. Oh, and then this next one, this is another really good option. I almost forgot that I did this, which is pretty important. What you'll find in the zip file, you'll find another indicator, which is this subwindow spacer. And all it is it's just puts a blank space in the subwindow. And then you scroll back down here, and you see where it says show buttons in which window. Right now it's currently at the main chart. And with the main chart, you can put it in any one of these corners and change the location, based on whichever corner you set it on. Like right now, it's at the left lower corner. If I typed 100, it would move this box 90 more pixels to the right, for example. So that's how that works. But with this particular thing, I found that sometimes if these buttons were overlapping some indicator below, like if price was down here and there's some other indicator, moving average or something, and we click the button, sometimes the click would penetrate through the buttons and go to the next indicator and call it up. So with this mode, what you can do now is we're going to take all these buttons and stick it down here in this sub window. And it's going to put it over here from the right top side, 10 pixels, sorry. See 10 right there to the left. Yeah, I mean, it's convenient. So, because it also doesn't take up any real estate or, cover up some of your chart. And then you can just move it. I have a number of other indicators that I'll be releasing that have use this same method, of which I think I'll add one because I'm going to scoot this over a little. And I'm going to add a vertical line, which put it right here. And all this is, this is just another indicator. It just draws a vertical line, and it's currently up there, but it's an older version. This new version has a few more things, and I'll be updating it fairly soon. Anyway, that's what this does. This next setting is the baseline, the current color. As you can see that it's gold, and it's a solid gold. 1 is the width. Some of the indicators have 2 different colors, and I'll show you some of those in a second. And it's red dot. And let's see, we'll go, I think this one, for example. And then there's some over here, like this one right here. I'll explain this one a little bit, but you can see that it uses 2 lines. And that's where you change them, as does this, for example. You can change these. So that's where you change the colors and the settings right there. And then this next line is where you can either not show the dots, you can show them on the baseline cross, or you can show them on the slope changes. And that's what this other button on the front panel does. And if you don't remember which one it was, you can just start, you click them. After a while, you'll get used to it. If you want to change the dot to a larger size or a diamond or a square or whatever crosshair, you can do that right here. I can also change the size right there. And then these next colors, this is the color of the up dot, of when it prints an up dot, or the down dot. This is the color it prints when it's over, the 1 times CTR. This is when it's under the minimum. And then these are just the color of the buttons. So, okay. Next, I'd like to show some of the more peculiar moving averages. For example, this one here, this is a moving average open close. I saw this somewhere, I think, on Forex Station or maybe it's Forex Factory. They did is they basically put two moving averages, one at the open and one at the close. It will generate a dot when they cross one another, depending on which direction they're going. And you can change the moving average type. There's a smooth, there is a TEMA, there's an SMA, EMA, there's a Jurek one, and you can change so you can just move things around like this, for example. The other one was, let's see, this one, the level stop and reverse. And as you can see, it has two lines. This is actually a confirmation indicator, but it was just an experiment. I was just trying things. So what I did is I decided to use another moving average from where to measure how far away from the baseline I was. So that's what this red dotted line is. It will measure from the red line or the gold line, whichever one is closer to the current price. Same type of thing, SSL, of which there's a few other ones here, and you can just change the parameters and try different things. It does get interesting. And there's a mode that you can select, I think, here. Yeah, see that green button showed up? And I was telling you these two buttons here, if they're available for this moving average. What it's basically doing, it's flip-flopping from where it's measuring. Right now, it's measuring from the opposite side. And then if you click it again, it's measuring from the midpoint. The next one that might find interesting are what I call the trends. Here's half trend. And all of them except, I think, the level stop and reverse and some other one, you have this high-low mode available. You can change the period. You can change the ATR and the ATR multiplier. And this one you can actually go negative if you want. You can get some pretty different settings. They're pretty useful. This is a precision trend, which is similar to the SSL or level stop reverse. It was a histogram. The next trend is a simple trend. Again, you can change the parameters. I think it has a multiplier, ATR, which again, you can change how it responds. Next one is super trend. Same thing. It has it to where you can change the mode, whatever it was, old calculation, and then using the ATR. Next one is Super Trend 2. The indicator uses the CCI, and I just made it so you could use the demarker indicator, the MACD, momentum, OSMA, the RSI, stochastics, Williams %R. CCI zero cross, I think, is the normal, is how normal super trend is generated. But I also added a signal cross based on this moving average right over here. And then the next thing it has on slope change. But anyway, you can mess with that. And you can, use the normal mode or have the high-low mode on. And then the last one is Trend Magic. I think it's a pretty useful indicator. It can help to find matches for your volume indicator, which is one of the hardest things to do, is to match the baseline with the volume indicator. But I think that's basically it. Yep, that's it.